Pull off a miracle. The shot! He scores! Miracle delivered! 3-2.
Giroux holding, gets around in front. Goal!
Up top, cruising is Provorov. He scores! Ivan Provorov wins it in overtime. Game 7.
Welcome to a very special edition of the Flyers Nation Show. I'm your host, Alexa Ross. Joining me now is JVR. It's so nice to have you with us. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, another off season, another training camp comes and goes. How are you feeling as you get ready for the season opener?
Yeah, it's great. I've been thinking about it a lot. It's training camp number 13 for me, year number 13 coming up. So you still get that same sort of butterflies feeling as the season gets closer and you have the first game coming up here. So especially in a year like we're going to have this year, where you're excited about a lot of different changes in the off season, but definitely a lot of positive energy around our team, and we're excited to kind of get on the ice and now go prove ourselves.
Obviously, like you were saying, it is your 13th season. You're going into it. What are your expectations for the season, your goals, things like that? Because, when you're younger, you kind of know, oh, well, this is what I want to do to get better and this and that and the other thing. But you're a vet, you're a pro. How do you set goals for the season that's coming up?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, to be honest, it's the same and even more specific, I think, now as I've gotten older. Like after every season, I try to think about the things that I liked about what I did, maybe some different things I want to try to add to my game. And then I kind of figure out how I want to attack that plan, whether it's skills work I want to do on the ice, stuff I want to do off the ice, training wise, and you try to attack that and you try to make some improvement and continue to kind of add layers to your game. So I definitely feel like I know what tools I have at my disposal to try to make these changes and make improvements. So I think that's one of the advantages of having the experience, is you're able to learn these different things along the way. And that's kind of what I like to do as I approach my off season and then going into the season. It's about how do you kind of utilize and make these bring these things to life that you've been kind of working on over the off season and trying to improve your craft.
And what were some of the things that you really focused on this offseason in particular? Yeah,
I think for me, it comes down to, I know what I can do, particularly a lot of the stuff, my bread and butter, just being around the net, being really good on the walls, particularly in the defensive zone and getting pucks out. I feel like those are two really strengths and pillars of my game. For me, I think it comes down to just wanting to be a little bit more dynamic as far as carrying the puck more, especially in the offensive zone. And that's just, again, by doing that, I think you create more openings for your teammates and things like that, and you're able to create more offensively out there as well. I think you never want to kind of be overly predictable. Obviously, I want to stick to my strengths as a player, and it's always going to be one of those things where that's in front of the net on the power play, creating a lot of havoc in front of the net in general. But I want to be able to pick my spots where if there's these opportunities that present themselves to carry the puck more or try to be involved a little bit more in the offensive zone in situations like that, I want to make sure I recognize those things and try to capitalize on that.
Speaking of being dynamic and kind of changing up your game, you're on a line right now, or looking like you're going to be on a line right now, of all left-handed shooters. So what you were saying was, which I've heard, is that if everyone is left-handed, you would rather be on the right. Talk a little bit about that and why you approach the game, or you want to approach the game like that.
Yeah, I think just speaking, or I don't know what the right word is that I'm looking for here, but just speaking about, it becomes more natural for guys to kind of, when they have the puck, to move it on their forehand, and I have a little more confidence, generally speaking, like that. So obviously, if you're with three lefties, the puck's generally going to be coming that way, and again, you're going to be a little bit more involved in touching the puck when you're on that side, and maybe you're going to be where you're going to be able to set yourself up to get more passes that way. So that's kind of the way I've thought about it as far as being on the right wing, playing with two lefties. I think that should with two other lefties, I should say. So that should be good. And I think one of my strengths as a player is being able to use my backhand and stuff like that. So I think being on that right side, I don't think I'll necessarily give anything up in that regard. I think I can make a lot of plays on my backhand, a lot of small, little, subtle plays out there that will keep plays alive and keep possession alive and things like that, and be able to make those plays in the offensive zone where we can get some scoring chances on my backhand. So I think obviously being a left-hand shot on the right side with two lefties, that becomes even more important.
Just switching gears a little bit, obviously a lot of moves were made this offseason just to get a lot of, signings, free agents, all of that. The team looks a little bit different. How has everybody really started to click, and how do they click throughout training camp? Do you think that everyone is ready and kind of finding their place?
Yeah, I think for sure, stylistically on the ice, I think just with some of the moves that were made, I think it seems like the pieces that we have in place fit together a little bit better. Just from what the different elements that we brought in and what they bring to the table. So I'm definitely excited about that. And again, like you said, when you bring in these new faces, there always is that learning curve, some of the stuff on the ice, but definitely off the ice as well, because I think the best teams, they always have that kind of family bond type qualities where guys are super tight and love spending time with each other and their families and stuff like that. So that's something that you develop particularly earlier in the year. So yeah, that's definitely something that we're looking forward to doing more and more of, is getting to know some new guys and their families and things like that, and their kids and whatever. And that's one of the fun parts about this time of the year.
Switching gears again, when you look at, you were saying before, 2009 was your first season. Think back that far, or maybe even a little more recent. When was your "I made it" moment?
That's a good question. I mean, my first goal, that's definitely one that you feel a little bit more comfortable after that. I was lucky enough to get my first point out of the way in my first game, so that was nice too. It gives you a little bit of confidence. I think I picked up like a secondary assist on a power play goal. I think it might have been Chris Pronger had like a barbecue or something at his house early on. So I think that might be it for me. I can't remember if it was like in training camp or right when the season started, but obviously at that point, like I only know these guys from like playing video games as a kid. And then like you're all of a sudden like you're teammates with them. So that transition happens rather quick. So that was pretty exciting and pretty cool to think that I was over at Chris Pronger's house for some hamburgers and hot dogs and stuff like that. So that was definitely a cool moment that I remember about my first year.
And now you're that guy for some of these younger guys who are coming in. Yeah. What is that like for you? Is that super weird, or does it feel kind of right now in your life, or is it still just kind of surreal?
Yeah, that part will always be a little bit funny to me for sure. I think having two younger brothers, I'm always obviously around that different age frame, but now some of the youngest guys coming in are even younger than my youngest brother, who's 25. So yeah, that's always kind of funny, and you kind of have those moments with some of the younger guys where you really realize how different the age is. But I think that's all what makes it so much fun, and that's what being part of a team is all about, where you have different guys who are different ages and experiences from different countries, and bring all a little bit something different to the table. And I think how that all fits together is what makes it so much fun at the rink, and makes it so much fun to be a part of.
And one last question before we go into those fan questions. You are known for your bright green mouthguard and your tape. I read before that it has to do with minor hockey. Can you kind of explain that story and why you still pay homage to that team now that you're you're so late in your career?
Yeah, no, it's so yeah, I grew up playing for the Brick Hockey Club in Brick, New Jersey, and the colors are Kelly green there, and Kelly green, black and white, but Kelly green being like the primary one. And my brothers and I and my family has gotten involved with the Challenger hockey program there. So that was my little homage to the club, obviously, that I grew up playing, but also to the kids that are playing in that program, because I wanted them. Because the coach that I grew up playing for is in charge of that program for the club still, and yeah, so I was like, hey, this is something that this is for you guys, like to let you know, like I'm proud of where I came from, and just kind of one of those little odes to back to kind of your childhood, and yeah, just to let the kids know that are playing in that program now. Just again, obviously. That was years ago now for me playing at the Brick Hockey Club, but it's nice to be able to have all different sorts of kids playing at all different levels, just having that little memento, I guess, or a way for me to show that I'm proud of where I came from.
So we're going to move into fan questions. I love that, by the way. I think it's so important to always rep where you came from. And I'm sure that those kids, every time they see it, get really, really excited. So my first question, it comes from Mark Kremer. You've played in two of the most passionate and toughest NHL markets in Toronto and Philadelphia. What would you say is the biggest difference between those two cities?
Wow. That's a good question. I think both super passionate hockey towns for sure. And I think for me, that's been something that's made a lot of fun. I think I love playing in that environment where people really care about the team, and there's a lot of energy in the building, and there's that extra sense of pressure to perform. I think that brings out the best of me as a player. I would say, yeah, they're both super passionate. I would say maybe being in Toronto, you're in a little bit more of a fishbowl, just because Canada being Canada, there is that just whether you're walking around the city or at the supermarket, you're maybe a little more recognizable, just because, again, up there you're on, the Leafs are front page news, and they're on Sports Center, national news, things like that all the time. Where obviously here there's a lot more to share the spotlight with, as far as the Eagles and the Sixers and the Phillies and stuff like that, and some college stuff. So you can kind of fly under the radar a little bit more in that sense. But there's certainly been both fun markets for me to play in, and I've enjoyed playing in both of them.
Our next question comes from Andy Frank. What is it like to play with Claude Giroux?
Yeah, that's been incredible. I think when I look back, obviously he was a guy who I started playing with when I started my career, and now we are 13 years later, still on the same team, still trying to chase after that same goal of winning a championship. So it's been cool to have an up close and personal seat to kind of see how he's grown as a player and as a person since I knew him when we were 20 years old, or however old, or might have been younger, because of those development camps in the summer, to where he is now. And obviously a legend as far as the Flyers franchise goes, and has all these different sorts of records that he's earned over the way, and still something now that we're chasing down together, our dream of winning a Stanley Cup. So yeah, all that stuff's been great. And obviously on the ice, I think we've always had great chemistry together, even when it was one of those things where right away when we started playing together, I think we thought the game on a similar wavelength. I think our skill sets obviously pretty different, but they mesh together pretty well too. So it's been fun to get a chance to not only play with him at the start of my career, where he helped me establish myself, but also now as we continue to try to chase down winning a Stanley Cup.
This one is not necessarily hockey related, but it is a fun one. This one comes from Dan Knightley. Who is your favorite baseball player of all time?
Favorite baseball player of all time? Wow. I don't know if the Philadelphia fans are going to love this one, but I'm going to go with Derek Jeter. I just loved how he carried himself. I mean, I grew up there, so those were my teams growing up, and just how his professionalism and the way he carried himself and the way he approached everything in his life. Being a professional athlete now for 13 years, you come to appreciate even more and more just the way he went about it, and the longevity that he had, and the different things he was able to do to be a winner and do all these things consistently was super impressive. And yeah, I would have to say he was my favorite baseball player growing up.
And our last question comes from Mike Quinn. Can you give your best pigeon coo?
People love that one. Let me think here. Okay. Was that pretty good or what?
That's good. That's really good.
It might not be as good as the video, but you know what? Me, G, and Hartsey have a lot of practice from when I say Hartsey, this OG Hartsey, Scott Hartnell. We have a lot of practice doing that to each other, and that's where that came from that video, which is so funny because we would do that noise to each other like pretty much to say hello every single day. And then obviously G was doing it on the ice to me, and it looked like he was obviously mic'd up for it. So good for him that video is going to be standing the test of time. I still see it. I get tagged in it all the time, so I find that pretty funny still. So I guess I got to make sure I can give my best one.
I'm glad that that's going to be a part of your guys' legacy forever. But thank you so much for joining us today. This was great. Best of luck this season, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much.